This watershed was everything to First Nations prior to contact. We had all species of salmon. We had sturgeon, we had steelhead, we had all of them in this watershed. We're down to narrow numbers of chum and narrow numbers of coho now. This project is going to help us bring all of that back.
So the mission of Resilient Waters is to work with local governments and First Nations especially to bring to life their needs and values on the landscape, especially when it comes to improving their flood infrastructure and reducing their flood risk, while also improving the opportunities for salmon. The Nicomen Slough is a really important offshoot of the Fraser River. It supports tons of salmon coming through this way, and it's one of the only off-channels of the Fraser of this size. So the problem, if we zoom out to the lower Fraser watershed, we've got all these pieces of flood infrastructure, floodgates, pump stations, and dikes. And Watershed Watch did some studies in 2018 that showed that there was about 150 structures that are blocking 1,500 kilometers of really important salmon habitat. And so this is one of them. So what was here, built in the 1950s, which is pretty common for the whole lower Fraser watershed, is that it's a top-mounted floodgate. And the problem is that the hinge is at the top, and it's a big cast iron gate, so it's staying closed almost all of the time, only when there's water enough to push it open, and it only opens the tiniest amount, so it's really not enough to let salmon get through to these really important pieces of habitat. And so this new one comes at it from a totally different perspective. It's open almost all the time, and it only closes when there is a flood risk, so it's really coming at it from the totally opposite perspective, optimizing salmon's ability to get into these habitats, and then only closing when there's flood risk.
If this wasn't put in right now, the entire ecosystem of the North Nicomen wetlands would be gone. It's the first of a much greater project that sees connections through all systems connecting together to allow fish to exist in a way that's more natural to them.
I grew up just over there. Used to fish in this pond here in the Joe's Lake when I was a kid and fish coho and cutthroat all throughout this area. Between agriculture, construction, it's really decimated a lot of the smaller waters. And this is certainly a great start in this particular watershed into seeing these things rebuilt and come back again. We can't overestimate the value of these projects and what they're going to mean long term. There's simply no other way of getting around it, that this is what's important for salmon in the area.
Projects like this that bring back crucial salmon habitat are so important because salmon are so crucial to our West Coast life, especially for First Nations people, where it's the center of ceremony and culture and food security. This ribbon cutting ceremony is just monumentous. Such a great example of everybody coming together, and you can see the excitement of all the people that have showed up today to be part of this event. There's so much interest in making these kinds of projects happen.
This is a great result of the collaboration that's taken place, and I'm certainly hoping that long run this can happen everywhere through the province.
We're not here to build something new. We're here to support nature to be what nature needs to be and nature wants to be. And that's exciting.
This is our first project of this nature, and it's a really great example of how First Nations communities can come together with settler communities, talk about their shared values and interests, and then come out of it with something that is really benefiting everyone by reducing the flood risk and improving the salmon habitat.